I was wrong, or at least wrong on the very, very short term and on the very long term. It does look like our long-term views on this channel that we've been looking at basically since early December are really starting to come into a much more crystal clear picture here as several things do come to fruition with this last move to the downside. Anyways, other than that, I do want to welcome you back to the Krown Crypto channel. It's been a nice Tuesday, Wednesday morning here. I do want to say that I apologize for the late video. That's just because I actually had a couple of doctor's appointments this morning. It was like nothing serious or really nothing at all, but it was pre-planned, and it's just funny that it was on today of all days where things actually do happen, as I was planning on doing a live stream if not, but fair enough. Anyways, I do want to start off right here presenting to you the monthly time frame for Bitcoin. This is let's actually go to CME for right now, and we can see that well, looking like a pretty hefty rejection right there after Bitcoin retested the highs, or not the highs, but the bull trap of March 2022. This did combine with several other factors that did say to us, hey, you know, these upper $40,000 targets are, you know, likely, but that's also likely to be, you know, a major reversal as well. And in this case, we do have something that's going to be happening for the first time since December of 2022. It was one of the main ingredients for us to look for and call a macro low back in December of 2022. And well, it's the opposite but equal signal over here, where we do see that the monthly stochastic oscillator is in danger of closing to the downside in the next 8.5 days, as this one will close. Yeah, in 8.5 days, or just below that, 8 days and 11 hours if you want to be super exact. That will officially happen if Bitcoin does close below the pivot on CME, which is $40,000, currently trading more than $1,000 below that as of right now. Of course, there's going to be bounces. There's going to be, you know, things are not going to be in a straight line or you know, or nothing like that. But ultimately, this does set in the tone likely for the next, you know, 1 to 4 months to come. So in this case, I did make a post about this last night on Twitter, but I want to go into a little bit more depth right here. Again, I'm not calling for a macro reversal to a bear market here. We have seen bull markets in the past that do just essentially oscillate within the bullish control zone. So it'll do something like this, you know, and kind of hang there throughout the market, or usually, you know, it kind of tightens up like this actually, where it gets blah, 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 and then breaks. But yes, back on topic here, that would imply that, you know, over the next 1 to 4 months, we do see this one turn down and play out a corrective move on a monthly time frame, which corrective move on a monthly time frame, 1, takes a long time, and 2, can be a very large percentage move, as we'll go over soon enough. Also, I do want to go over here, or we don't really need to go over here, but just wanted to show in the past as well that just because we do see a turn down in the more bullish control zone, it's not a death sentence or anything like that. You can see it remain there for a while, but it does imply that the short-term run is done. And again, this is not to say that there's not going to be bounces or anything on the way down. You know, of course, yesterday and the day before, I was looking for a bounce, which, you know, I mean, statistically speaking, probabilistically speaking, was more likely. But of course, you know, if you're a YouTube commenter, you can just say, you're wrong. Fair enough, man. More power to you. But my point is that is that we're not going to be talking too much about bounces on this particular video. What I want to be focusing this video, what I want to focus this video on is the more long term, because we are really starting to see this picture, you know, coalesce. So this would be, you know, the next major step. Again, monthly closing in about 8 days, 8.5 days, basically. So moving on from there, I also wanted to call out this as well, the weekly time frame. We were looking at this for CME coming into last week's closure on Friday, saying that, hey, we do have a herp and derp on the weekly RSI, which was also governing some likely downside. And well, downside we did indeed get. It, you know, probably does align for a bounce relatively soon. I don't really want to play that game as of right now, but you know, that bounce, like I said, and like I've said before, these bounces are probably going to be just that. Now on the weekly, as long as Bitcoin's still below about $46,000, it is bearish. So all bounces are failures as long as that condition is not met. Again, 46,000 basically on higher term timeframes. Moving on from there, I do want to revisit the setup as well. This is the 5-day volatility versus stochastic momentum signature. Damn, man, I'm just fucking up my words today. I actually had to wake up like super early for this doctor appointment. It's like, it was a fucking nothing thing too. Like, So unnecessary, but my brain isn't working as well as possible, or maybe even not at all. But 5-day time frame right here, I should also identify, yeah, it is coming into alignment with the 21. So short term, is this stump going to get continuation from here? Probably not. It's probably going to bounce from here, dare I say, but it probably is going to bounce from here. But here's the thing. Bouncing and trading more sideways within this range below 46,000 bucks is not going to be good for the BULAs. It's not going to be good for the BULAs, and I'll explain why. Because it will allow the 5-day volatility represented by the BBWP indicator here to continue to base off in extreme lows. And anytime that we have seen this one base off in extreme lows, anything below really 15 percentile or more, we have seen the expansion phase that naturally follows from those contraction phases to align with, about a 30% move. And whatever direction the stochastic oscillator is positioned in is the very, very high probability direction of where that volatility expansion will come in towards. So as of right now, the 5-day period is showing a downside curve as long as Bitcoin's below 47,000 bucks. Again, that number will change, on the next period and whatnot, but ultimately, even if Bitcoin bounces here and trades sideways for another few periods, it's just going to allow this to continue to contract more, which actually does imply a greater resolution. And I do have statistics for this for just the downside signals on the 5-day time frame, volatility versus stochastic. But and of course, this is not to be confused with the 5-day volatility versus stochastic for the long side, which there have been 11 prior setups that we've seen, even a couple of them in the past couple of years here. But this is a 5-day for the short side, and there's actually only been 10 in Bitcoin's history. And of those 10, 8 have played out with some pretty significant downside. When I say pretty significant downside, I mean an average return of about 38.5% on an average, taking an average of about 36.25 days. So this takes a long time. It takes on average more than a month to play out, and it's a pretty fucking sizable move as well. In fact, keep this number in the back of your mind's eye, the 38.5% or so region. I should also say that, there is a standard deviation of 8.5% here, which my ranges are actually wrong for because I did not recalculate them. I apologize on that, but it's basically between like 30% to 46%, something like that. But yeah, going back into it, if this does come to the downside, and this would probably look something like this, Bitcoin bounces here, trades sideways, and then sets up for like a mid-February dump. But let's say that we got something like that. What sort of numbers could we be potentially looking at? Well, on the shallower side, the first standard deviation is going to give us about 30% to the downside. That would be, $34,500 bucks. On the upper end, we've seen like 46%. I think that would be quite a lot. 26,500 bucks. I think that's less likely. But let's say that we kind of cut in the middle there, do somewhere around 40%, somewhere around there. That'd put Bitcoin actually just a smidge below 30,000 bucks at 29,350 actually. So you can kind of see a range of very likely probabilistic targets. Again, this is just the first standard deviation, which gives us a probabilistic range basically. So looking at it from that vein, we can then combine it with this picture over here. And this picture becomes really interesting when you come at it from that perspective. And this is the long-term look at Bitcoin. All of these green vertical bars represent past halving dates. The one over here in May is the presumed one to come in 2024. But for these past ones, there's been a very interesting relationship from multiple different ways actually. First, we've seen Bitcoin enters into a parabolic rally, a couple of years before the halving, then enters into a parabolic dump about a year before the halving, breaks out, goes for that pre-halving rally, usually hits its high within a few months. In this case, you can see the high hit here between the 50% and the 618 fib. And from there was a big, massive rejection. This one done very, very quickly, I should add, but very big rejection nonetheless for let me actually get this right. I don't think I am doing this one right for the measurement here. and it does indeed matter, for about a 45% move to the downside on this first one. You can also see that it based off the 236 fib right here on the low, and then found its lows before the halving, about a month before the halving, or actually it found its lows right here, which was many months before the halving. But that higher low, more importantly, in October, so about a month before the halving in November of 2012, and then upwards and onwards from there. Then you get the same thing in 2015, 2016, right? Same parabolic rally, same parabolic blow off top, same rally right about a year, starting about a year before the halving, goes all the way up to the 50%, and between the 50% and 618 fib here, you can see, and then dumps off, corrects all the way down to the 236 again, I should add. And what is that? That's about a 38% correction right there. Okay, interesting. That number sounds fucking familiar, by the way. And I should also add that this one found its low after the halving, to be fair. Anyways, moving on to the next one, we do see parabolic blow off top, parabolic dump, nice rally about a year before, starting about a year before the halving. Bitcoin hits its highs between pretty much on a closing base right at the 50% level, and even puts in a wick towards the 618 fib. But again, same 50% level right there being hit. And then what do you get? Well, you get a bit of a black swan, but even just taking the closures of these, that's a 39.5% correction down to the 236. On a monthly, this looks a lot more symmetrical, I guess, because, using closures here, we can see that this was, it kind of gets rid of the extremes, and that would be about a 41.5% move yet again. So I thought that was interesting. You have basically 40% corrections all the way through. And what do we have over here? Based off of these statistics, we have an average move of about 40%, basically, very, very close to it. And takes about a month to play out, traditionally speaking, which this one is not fired off just yet, but it's baking now. So this is inevitable at some point to play out. Doesn't necessarily mean it's inevitable to play out to the downside, but 80% probability, assuming that the 5-day stochastic oscillator remains positioned to the downside. But for right now, you can see that, dare I say, another bounce here, trade sideways below 46,000 bucks, might even rally up all the way to 44, 45. I mean, that'd be fine. Doesn't mean shit though. It's still likely to kind of break down before that halving date. And also kind of likely to put in the low before the halving as well, to be fair, as we have seen that happen 2 out of the 3 times. The one time that it happened a little bit after, how long afterwards was the low put in? About a month, it looks like. Let me just measure this one out. 28 days. Yeah, about a month. 28 days later. Oh shit. The fucking zombies are coming for your corns. Oh, damn. We done fucked up now. I love it. Well, I don't love it, but you know what I mean. Anyways, yeah, okay. I think I've done enough scaring of the peoples. hopefully not scaring you. At the end of the day, if you're watching content like this, I'm guessing you're probably a more active trader. You really don't give a fuck about which direction that Bitcoin goes, just that it goes a direction. But again, I don't want to sound like a fucking broken record here. Don't want to be that boy who cried wolf, but I do think Bitcoin probably tries for a little bit of a bounce here. Again, the long-term direction is what we're really focusing on here. And a bounce here does not save, again, below 46,000 bucks. Just allows this setup over here to mature, which then leads up into this setup over here. And, it's really hard to ignore right now. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention the most important thing. Bitcoin, on a closing basis, stopped basically at the 50% level, wicked up to the 618, very similar to the last correction over here, by the way. Where's the 236? 28,000 bucks, basically. I think that's worst case scenario, absolute worst case scenario. Maybe on like a quick wick down there and then rally back up as it kind of levels out. But realistically, Bitcoin's probably going to be, besides this next downside move, which comes maybe in like middle of February, let's say, Bitcoin's probably gonna be pretty boring after that, just going sideways. I mean, it's ideally in a constructive manner, leads back onto the upside, but it's probably gonna get boring after that. That would be the next sort of really good indication that I'd be looking for Bitcoin for long-term upside. And I do think that probably will happen as well, but fair enough. That's gonna do it for today's video. Again, kind of, in terms of likelihood, like best case, worst case, I think 34-ish 34,500 best case scenario, 28 worst case scenario. Bounces along the way, sure, but we won't focus on that on this video too much. So I think we'll end things right there. As always, I want to wish you the best of the best. Take care, much love, and fuck, I forgot to do it again. By the way, if you find this content valuable, if you just want to like and subscribe, fucking like, subscribe. All right. You don't need somebody to tell you that. Well, actually, a lot of people do, because it certainly does help out the channel metrics. Fair enough. Like and subscribe. It's good for your health. Not tested by the FDA though. Okay. Take care. Also, oh shit, I'm still rolling. I almost said just like the jab.